Hello and welcome to the Ellen Made Book Club. Today I want to talk to you about 9 new releases that are coming out in August. As usual, I have a mix of genres. There are plenty of thrillers, which I feel like is also a pretty common occurrence in these videos, but I also have some contemporary sci-fi romance, historical mystery slash fantasy, a speculative dystopia, gothic horror, paranormal horror. Yeah, there's a little bit of everything in here, and it's leaning kind of dark. So if you're, in the mood for some summer thrillers or summer horror, or maybe even getting ready for fall season, I don't even want to think about that. But if that's you, you'll maybe find some good options in this video. I'm gonna go through these in order of the expected publication date, and then I have some honorable mentions at the end. So the first book is Moderation by Elaine Castillo, and this is a contemporary sci-fi romance, and it's about Girlie Del Mundo, who is the greatest content moderator in the world. And despite financial crises, climate catastrophe, and a global pandemic, she's getting a promotion. Thanks to her parent company Paragon's purchase of Fairground, she's on the way to becoming an elite virtual reality moderator for the next stage of human interaction. So there's a lot of reality as well in the story, with all of the, crises going on. And then also she falls in love with the co-founder of one of these companies, and he has some kind of a secret, and all the while she's this virtual reality moderator, which is kind of isolating because you're just in these glasses or whatever. So I don't know, I just think it sounds like a very intriguing concept. I'm always intrigued by speculative things, and this feels kind of close to reality with VR and moderating things, and the world and life becoming more and more digital and sort of virtual. It sounds very interesting, and I mean, look at that cover. Of course I'm going to be curious about that. Next up I have The Hounding by Xenobe Purvis, and I've seen this book around. I feel like it's on a lot of people's radar. I think it sounds really intriguing. It says, even before the rumors about the Mansfield girls begin, Little Nettlebed is a village steeped in the uncanny. But when the villagers start to hear barking, and one claims to see the Mansfield sisters transform before his very eyes, the allegations spark fascination and fear like nothing has before. So there's been a lot of literary female rage, unhinged woman kind of fiction books with women turning into dogs or werewolves or, something along those lines. And they usually turn out to be flesh-eating kind of stories, or that's the vibe I get with all these pieces of meat on the cover. And that's not really my thing. I get a bit grossed out by that. But this one seems to be leaning more witch hunt kind of, which I'm also grossed out by since reading The Burnings. It's a bit too body horror-esque, but I feel like this one might be a bit more fantasy and a bit more they're turning into dogs. If they're dogs on the cover, those are cute dogs and they mainly run fast. I don't see them as vicious meat grabbing creatures, beasts. I think this sounds weird and very intriguing. Speaking of animals eating flesh, next up we have The Islands of Last Things by Emma Slowly. And I don't think that this story is about animals eating humans necessarily, although, judging by the cover, it kind of looks like that's where it's going. But anyways, this is more like a climate fiction thing, speculative dystopia as well. And it's about the last zoo in the world. The wild has nearly disappeared. At the last zoo in the world, Camille spends her days caring for chimpanzees, tree frogs, and a restless jaguar. Outside the zoo, resistance groups and brutal cartels fight to shape the world's future, but Camille is safe within her routines, until new zookeeper Sailor arrives. So Camille is drawn to this new zookeeper called Sailor, and she whispers of a secret sanctuary where animals roam free, and Camille starts to imagine a life there with Sailor. But then there are some things that go a bit wrong, and it's just I don't really know what to expect from this story. It says that it's like a, propulsive and fiercely hopeful and, a bit twisty. And I again, have never read anything like this. And yeah, I'm very intrigued. This could also work very well for the animals prompt on my diversity book bingo. So if I can get a hold of this, yeah, that would be very fun. Next, I have a historical gothic horror novel called House of Monstrous Women by Daphne Fama. Orphaned after her father's political campaign ended in tragedy, Josephine is alone taking care of the family home while her older brother is off in Manila, where revolution brews. But an unexpected invitation from her childhood friend Hiraya to her house offers an escape. Why don't you come visit and we can play games like we used to? Hiraya is a witch and her family spits curses, but Josephine is desperate enough to seize this chance to change her destiny somehow. The house is strange, labyrinthine, and dangerously close to a treacherous sea. A sickly sweet smell clings to the dimly lit walls, and veiled eyes follow Josephine through endless connecting rooms. The air is tense with secrets, and as the game continues, it's clear Josephine doesn't have the whole truth. I think this sounds very creepy, but also kind of fun, and I really like the cover and all of the colors, and I don't think I've ever read anything set in the Philippines, so that is going to be interesting as well. The next book is perfect for August since it is Women in Translation Month, because this book was originally published in Korean in 2021 and is now coming out in an English translation, and that is The Midnight Shift by Seon-ran, in translation by Jean Peng. And this is something that is very much outside of my comfort zone, but I just think it sounds very intriguing. This is a paranormal mystery horror, and it's about a woman called Soo-yeon, and it says, when 4 elderly people commit suicide back to back at the same hospital, Soo-yeon wonders why she's the only one at her precinct that seems to care, but she doesn't have the privilege of looking away. Her dearest friend lives in that hospital, and Soo-yeon is terrified that something will happen to her next. So these elderly people are living at this hospital or like nursing home situation, and they are jumping out from a window on like the 6th floor, I think it said, and there seems to be some kind of vampire situation, which is not what I typically read, and that's not really the part that intrigues me about the story. It's just a combination of those things, like the crime or like police component, and then having this elderly friend at this hospital place and the mystery of what's going on and why nobody cares. And yeah, it's just all very dramatic, and I want to read this. We'll have to see if I can handle the vampires. Next up is High Season by Katie Bishop, and this is a mystery thriller set in France. 17-year-old Tamara was found dead in the pool of her family's mansion in France, leaving her twin brother Blake and their sister Nina. Nina was 6 years old and became the youngest person to testify in a French murder trial. She's the only one who saw what happened. Or didn't she? 20 years later, her memories have faded and a documentary is announced. I think that sounds like such a fun time. I am always interested in things concerning memory and memory in trials, and especially when it's like children and they have seen something. I think the nanny is involved, or she was suspected to be involved, but maybe she wasn't. It's set during 2 summers, 20 years apart, so it's a dual timeline story, with the first summer being when everything happened, and then 20 years later when Nina is maybe starting to question her own memory. I think this sounds really good and perfect for the end of summer. Next, I have a taut family drama set in the American South, and that is Dominion by Addie Citchens, or Kitchens. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. Reverend Saber believes in God, privilege, and enterprise. His youngest of 5 sons is called Wonder Boy. After an encounter with a stranger, Wonder Boy finds himself confronted by questions he'd never imagined, and his response will send shockwaves through the entire community. So that's a very vague description, but it says that the story is told from the point of view of the women who love these 2 men, so the father and the son, Wonder Boy. And it says that it illustrates how we enable the everyday violence and casual sins of the patriarchy. The casual sins of the patriarchy definitely sounds intriguing to me, and I also think that the connection to religion, like there being a reverend and there's like a church thing and then the snake on the cover, or like the church turning into a snake, I don't know. I think that there's something interesting here, and I'm very curious to read this book. I think it sounds really good. The next one also has a mix of different components that are very appealing to me for some reason. This is a gothic mystery thriller, and it's called If You're Seeing This, It's Meant for You by Leigh Stein. I don't know if you have seen those videos on YouTube where it pops up some kind of message like, if you're seeing this, it's meant for you. I've definitely seen those videos, and so I think that's a very funny title. And it says Dana, who is 39 years old, is unemployed and dumped by her boyfriend in a Reddit post. She agrees to help Craig, who she hasn't spoken to in 20 years, transform his crumbling mansion into a successful hype house of influencers. But missing from the mansion is Becca, with tarot card reading videos and a rabid fandom. So there's clearly some social media presence here with all the influencers and the mystery of a missing girl, and then, you know, the Reddit posts. And, yeah, I think this sounds like such a fun time. It sounds very dark as well, and like it's a gothic mystery thriller, but that sounds like a fun time to me. And yeah, I love the cover. And then the last one on my list is Doll Parts by Penny Zang. This is a mystery thriller, crime, dark academia kind of book, also with 20 years apart. So we've had a few books with a 20-year gap, which is interesting. I don't know what that's about, but anyways. For best friends Nikki and Sadie, college was supposed to be a fresh start. But the Sylvia Club, a campus legend surrounding multiple deaths, all written off as suicides, tears the friends apart. 20 years later, Nikki is dead. Sadie is pregnant by Nikki's grieving husband and convinced that Nikki is sending her clues. There's definitely some drama there with Sadie sort of taking over Nikki's life, which sounds a bit weird, but it seems to be mostly about their friendship and this sort of cult-like group at their college, and Nikki apparently was continuing to trying to figure out what that was all about, and maybe was onto something, and so Sadie finds out about that, and maybe she's in danger now. I don't know, that's a sort of common premise, but I think that sounds really interesting, and yeah, I'm very intrigued. It says, told in a dual timeline, Doll Parts is an evocative and irresistible debut. At once an exploration of the dark chasms that break apart friendships, an ode to the aching beauty of girlhood, and a sharp portrayal of grief that can physically haunt you. And then I have some honorable mentions, and the first one is a nonfiction book called Are You Mad at Me? How to Stop Focusing on What Others Think and Start Living for You by Meg Josephson. Are you constantly worried about what people think of you? Are you an anxious perfectionist? Always overextending yourself and then turning resentful? Avoiding conflict at all costs? Silencing your needs for the comfort of everyone else? Then this book might be for you. And a quote on the front says, honest, relatable, and binge-worthy. Reading this book will feel like coming up for air. Next, I have These Memories Do Not Belong to Us by Yiming Ma. This is a dystopian mystery thriller set in a future China called Qin, I think, where memories can be tampered with and bought and sold, and it's all a bit complicated, so I don't know if I can do it justice now, but I just think this sounds very intriguing. It's about a son, and he inherits his mother's memories, but he doesn't really know if they are reliable or not. Either way, he is adamant that he must share them with the world before they are destroyed forever, even if the cost of doing so is his own life. It says it's powerful and provocative, a kaleidoscopic look into the ways in which governments and media manipulate history and control our collective imagination. And then I have a psychological thriller called Too Old for This by Samantha Downing. This one is about Lottie Jones, who thought her crimes were behind her, Decades earlier, she had changed her identity and tucked herself away in a small town, when investigative journalist Plum Dixon shows up on her doorstep asking questions about her past, and specifically about her involvement with numerous unsolved cases. Well, Lottie just can't have that. I seem to be intrigued lately about older women who have a little bit more of a bite to them than, bingo games at the local church. And yeah, I'm hoping that this one could be a really good one as well. That's my list, and as usual, I'm very curious to know if you are putting any of these on your TBR or if you have read any of them already. Please let me know what you thought if you have. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next one.